never asked you to stop clapping. Stand up, let your clap continue. He's a member of Nigerian Legion. Now our own product. Thank you, sir.
Well, you can all sit down, please. Sun Tzu said, I want to quote Sun Tzu, that is a philosophical ancient warrior whose book is still, The Art of War is still very important and still being used worldwide today. He said, in order to evade the enemy, you should first of all get sufficient information on the method of evasion. So, if you get the required information, then you apply that method. Of course, you'll be able to evade your enemy. Well, first of all, I would like to mention that I'm a counter-terrorism expert. I'm a United States trained Special Operation Forces expert. And even after retirement, I was called the Defense Headquarters to train the Special Forces of the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. And of course, a few years ago, too, the Navy Civil Defense engaged me to train their agro rangers. I was effectively engaged in training the agro rangers of the Civil Defense. Presently, I'm still engaged, of course, in training Special Operations Forces, and some of those I trained are in Benue, Taraba, Plateau State, and of course, in the Northeast. We were the first to be assembled to train the team that went to arrest the situation in Zamfara State. My foray into counter-terrorism, of course, started even as far back as when I was a lieutenant in the army. But let me say, when I was a captain, I was opportune to be engaged to go and quell a riot, because some of these terrorism situations arise from religious and ethnic conflicts. And so it was a local government area, and these current terrorists, they went to that place and they began to burn down churches, kill people anyhow, and then the residents of that area who are non-indigenous had to run to hide in the police station. And so the local, in fact, it was so serious that the local government chairman had to take 2 dead bodies to my unit in Zaria. That local government was about 75 kilometers from Zaria, and I was in depot in Zaria there. He came here with these 2 dead bodies and reported to the commandant that he needed assistance. And then something actually happened earlier. Zaria prison was raided by the terrorists then. They attacked the Zaria prison and set 600 prisoners free. Not only that, that was in 1992. They also slaughtered 23 warders like animals, goats. They held them down and slaughtered them with knife. Including the warder, that's in Nigeria. It happened. And the woman that was pregnant had her stomach cut open and drew the child in it and sucked the blood. Yes, it is there in their book. And what people don't know is that in terrorism, if you are a counter-terrorist, then you should understand the background. Know about those terrorists. How did they come about, the ideology? What is the brain or the background behind this behavior? Then you will understand. Of course, I was sent to quell the riot in that area. We went there, arrested the situation. Some soldiers engaged those people with live rounds, and some of them died. But I was called to, I was deployed to Ikara. Yes, to be specific, Ikara. By the time I got there, all the non-indigenous were jam-packed in the police station. I was given just 35 men to go and face 8,000 rioters. So with 35 men from my unit, with 5 rounds of ammunition, I had to, as a special operation force trained, I knew exactly what to do. So rather than just go there with 5 rounds, I went to Portagat, signed 200 rounds. They moved ahead. I stopped on the way in the night. In fact, the DPO, assistant DPO came with to tell me, in fact, he told me that, look, the DPO himself had his leg cut off by the terrorists. And to cut a long story short, when I got there, I established my command center. If you are carrying out security anywhere, you don't have a command center, then you are not started. If you are asking me to come and secure a location and you are not giving me the opportunity to carry out the RTBA, who knows the meaning of RTBA here? Risk, threat, vulnerability assessment. You first carry out your risk, threat, vulnerability assessment before you move ahead to carry out any assignment. Recently, a petrochemical company approached my company, wanting me, in fact, they just came, we met those executives, and they said, come and please, give us this implementation of physical protection systems. I said, is that so? That is okay. After 4 days, I now sat down and wrote, sent a message down to them. In fact, I decided I must be here, otherwise I would have been holding meeting with them. I said, I'm coming here in Abuja. And what really happened was that I put up a note. I said, for me to do this assignment, you must give me, sign an FT, non-disclosure agreement with me first of all. I'm an expert. Not only that, after that we'll sign MOU, then we have begun to talk. Because it happened, my fingers were beating several times. At the time, I was asked to write a paper for the building of a dam. I did it, money was released, those involved did not remember me. So, since then, if anybody comes, oh please write this paper, I'll say, well, who is in charge? I want to see him. Okay, this takes us now, I was just trying to tell you that exercise, that operation, counter-terrorism operation, which I carried out as a captain in 1992, was the most successful operation NISA under the 1D area, because I went with 35 soldiers, faced 1,000 rioters, only one soldier was injured. My soldiers were able to eliminate 9 of the rioters. In fact, they were attacking, but they didn't know what hit them, because when I gave the fire control orders, the aim was to incapacitate them from the leg. So hundreds of them were injured on the leg. Otherwise, most would have died. And some ran away. Those who are up to today, many that ran away never remember the village again, that local government again. Never came back. Found in 92. And it was a joint operation because I used the police headquarters as my command center, joint ops. experience in countering terrorism. And please return to that local government area. The local government chairman came, followed me to my unit, depot there. He said, Alexander, we are so proud of you. I want you to come and take 5 hectares of land. I said, no, I only did my job. I'm a soldier. Thank you very much. So straight into, it was a successful operation. The commandant declared it. And I have my record there. So today we are talking about domestic terrorism awareness for security professionals. Enough is enough with theory. It is time that the region are engaged in counter-terrorism training. The challenges that we have in Africa have gone so high. Going into the Sahel area, you find out that the Islamists, call it Islamists, are going out and terrorizing. When you go to Guinea, they were beginning to terrorize the Guineans. Then there is a change of government in Guinea right now. The military have taken over. They were also terrorizing the Mali people. In Mali, the indigenous people, they call it Togo. The Togo people were as black as my black shoe. But they had their to do. And they brought, every time the terrorists attacked them, killed 5 of the Dogon people will use their to do and their power and kill 20 of those terrorists in Mali. So, what the terrorists actually need is to be engaged and decimated. What am I saying? Looking at example of Central African Republic, I was invited here by the president last year. I was in Central African Republic last year, and when he was being sworn in for his second term in office, because he had a counter-terrorism expert, and he wanted, because his country was bordered by Chad, Niger, Sudan. Those are countries that were boiling with terrorism. And terrorists infiltrated into that country and destabilized that country. 5 million population, but they are very rich in gold, diamond, crude oil. And so these things enticed the terrorists. They came here, began to monopolize the mineral resources of this poor country, this rich country. To the extent that the new president had to invite Russians to take over from the French, because the French were the colonialists of that country, exploiting that country rather than defending them. Well, that's another story. I'm going straight to my presentation here. Terrorism is systemic use of terror, especially as a means of coercion. Terrorism definition also refers to violent acts which are intended to create fear, terror, and perpetrated for a religious, political, or ideological means. So the aim of terrorism is to induce fear. And what I want to tell you today is, do not fear. So the moment you refuse to fear and you decide to engage the terrorists, they are cowards. They will make into thin air.
I won't get their reaction. And this guy is not stable like that.
So going back to the, because I teach, I am an instructor, a practical instructor. When the Americans trained me in the special operations, they recommended me to be a pioneer instructor with the amphibious. So we started the marine amphibious training in the army. I'm also a marine and special forces marine amphibious expert. So you are already here, I see a lot of water. Talking about how to operate in the water, I'm one of the experts in the world. So, this, talking about engagement with these terrorists, I'm going to refer to that country, that's Central African Republic. Let me give you an example of what happened there. The terrorists terrorized them. And so, the the terrorists form a kind of, what they call it, they form a military group, they call it Seleka. Say Seleka. And they began to terrorize the people of that country. And then they kept terrorizing until those who said, enough is enough. Those of them with juju carry their juju. Those that can pray carry their prayer. But there was one common denominator. They armed themselves and filled terrorists and decimated them. In fact, if some of the terrorists even came from Nigeria, half of them were killed with the remaining rampart. Nigerians, we don't deserve to be terrorized. And we are too much to be terrorized. So that's what I say. As I'm talking now, some people are running out of Nigeria, hiding and crawling to Benin Republic. Some are hiding, running back to Cameroon. Why? This country belongs to you. What are the types of terrorism? Terrorism has been practiced. Well, before I go into the types of terrorism, I want to tell you the conclusion of that, what happened in Central African Republic. Then I was not told that a group came. Those groups that were terrorized, they now formed their own group called Anti-Balaka. So the Anti-Balaka decimated the Seleka and others and took over power, took over their resources. They are now controlling their resources. So every time the terrorists are coming in now, they know that the Anti-Balaka are armed, ready, waiting for them. But if you are disarming, if you are disarmed and you are being attacked by terrorists, then the terrorists are cowards. The worst of cowards. How will you fight someone that is not armed? You go carry cutlass and break the head of the child. Even Satan is jealous of such wicked people. Even the devil is jealous. You know, paratroopers will say, even the best are jealous of us. I'm a jump master. Airborne jump master like paratrooper. So that's what happened. Terrorism has been practiced. A broad array of political organizations to further their objectives. Terrorism is also defined as political violence in an asymmetric and conflict that is designed to induce fear through violent victimization. So when you talk of asymmetric, next, talking about asymmetric warfare, it's not the type of operations. You cannot say advance to quick attack. In the army, how we call advance to quick attack. Yes, you are advancing. You know where the enemy is. You are moving. A company, a section, a battalion, moving. They know where the enemy is. But now, the enemy is faceless. They will attack and disappear into the society. And most of the time, the society where they operate are also accomplices. They hide them and give information. So our forces right now, because I train special operation forces of the Army, Navy, Air Force who are engaging terrorists right now. Some of them have lost their lives, of course. And some are still fighting and dealing with the enemy. So what am I saying? The tactics for engaging terrorists is different. Unconventional tactics. We the special forces, you go into an aeroplane. That's why you see this is just half of my decorations. So I have not put all of them. I'm a tracker, special forces trained, marine amphibious trained, airborne basic, airborne advanced, pathfinder, job master. And I'm also a member of the Legion. History of terrorist organizations suggest that they do not select terrorism for its political effectiveness. Individual terrorists tend to be motivated more by a desire for social solidarity with other members of their organization than the political platforms or strategic objectives, which are often murky and undefined. Terrorism has been practiced by a broad area of political organizations for furthering their objectives. It has been practiced by both right-wing, left-wing and political parties, nationalistic groups, religious groups, revolutionaries, and ruling governments. An abiding characteristic is indiscriminate use of violence against non-combatants for the purpose of gaining publicity for a group, cause, or individual. It is by distinguishing terrorists from other types of criminals and terrorism from other forms of crime, we come to appreciate that terrorism includes political aims and motives, violence. Equally important, threatening violence, designed to have far-reaching psychological repercussions. So what the terrorists do is, they try to do something that will create attention, give them attention, worldwide. Now look at what terrorists did in Syria. They have cannibalized Syria. Damascus, the president, the head of state, only has Damascus for himself now. And then you have the Kurdish area, you also have those other areas, and even for now, they're finding it difficult to control the country because of the activities of terrorists. What about Libya? From the days of Gaddafi, since the death of Gaddafi, Libya has never been the same again. Terrorists here and there, and the warlords here and there, engaging themselves. If Nigeria is going to deteriorate into that situation, I will say no. So I'm talking about asymmetrical warfare. These people can be in civil dress, and then they are carrying Kalashnikov. Founded by Mr. Kalashnikov in Russia many years back. AK-47, AK-49. In fact, now they carry GPMG, General Purpose Machine Gun. And then they also carry what we call RPG-7, Rocket Propelled Gun 7, which has anti-personnel warheads. Recently, I attended the Army Week in Owerri. And my company were able to bring in a kind of a drone that is unmanned air weapon, unmanned air vehicle that can, it has warheads that can fire enemy tanks, fire submarine vehicles, and of course can even destroy bandits. Hoping that we will get some of these weapons and we'll be able to overcome even the challenges that we have in this country very effectively. I know we are capable if we have the will and the mind to do that. Terrorist acts, next please. Terrorist acts frequently have a political purpose. Political purpose. Terrorism is a political tactics, like letter writing or protesting. The politicians will come. Now, you are talking about youths. You are talking about citizens. The best way to be able to impact on the society is to take control of your civic rights and vote whom you don't want out. Then what is happening in our society? The politicians will stand up and begin to promise you heaven and earth. Then when it gives you 5,000, that 5,000 looks like 50 million to you. And then you begin to run your head down, throw your head down for him to win the election. By the time he comes here, he turns his back on you. You should begin to motivate your children right from your house, and your brothers and your relations and your colleagues, to give Nigeria another chance in the next elections, so that we can get a leader. A leader leads by example and persuasion. Very often victims of but because they are specific symbols, tools, animals, corrupt beings that tie into a specific view of the world that terrorists possess. Their suffering accomplishes the terrorist goal of instilling fear, getting the message out of the logic. For instance, when the terrorist comes, he splashes the brain of a little child out. That will become news for people to hear. Now, talking about democracy and domestic terrorism, scroll to 16, please. Paragraph 16. The relationship between the domestic terrorism and democracy is very complex. Terrorism is most common in nations with intermediate political freedom and is least common in the most democratic nations. However, one study suggests that the suicide terrorism may be an exception to this general rule. Evidence regarding this particular method of terrorism reveals that every modern suicide campaign has targeted a democracy, still with a considerable degree of political freedom. The study suggests that concessions awarded to terrorism during the 1980s for suicide attacks increased in their frequency. Religious terrorism. We have talked about democracy and domestic terrorism. What about religious terrorism? Religious terrorism is terrorism performed by groups or individuals, the motivation of which is typically rooted in the faith-based tenets. Terrorist acts throughout the centuries have been performed in religious grounds with the hope to their spread or enforce a system of belief, viewpoint, or opinion. Religious terrorism does not in itself necessarily define a specific religious standpoint or view, but instead usually defines as individual or a group view or interpretation of that belief system's teaching. That is, a religion, in order to spread the religion, those followers of that religion will attack some communities, communities, and in the event that they defeat those communities, they force them to convert to their religion by force or die. History shows us that those that resisted and fought bravely sent those people back to where they came from. And of course, even kill them. Perpetrator, we are talking about perpetrators. 18. The perpetrators of acts of terrorism can be individuals, groups, and states, according to some definitions. Clandestine or semi-clandestine state actors may also carry out terrorist acts outside the framework of the state. To avoid detection, a terrorist will look, dress, and behave normally until executing the assigned mission. Some claim that attempts to profile terrorists based on personality, physical or social traits are not useful. Now look at the terrorists that went to bring down the World Trade Center. Some went to train as pilots in the US. They exploited the freedom that was the US. They exploited the opportunity that was the US. I am a member of the American Society for Industrial Security International. I'm also a certified protection professional. It's the gold standard for security worldwide. If you want to get the gold standard, go for CPP. If you want to get the gold standard, go for PSP. That's a physical security professional. You want to go for gold standard, go for PCI, professional certified investigator. We begin to carry out the leading edge ability. Because when you go for the leading edge opportunity, then the sky will become your standard lines. Now we go straight into West African vulnerabilities to terrorism. We are talking about awareness. The aim is to make you to be aware about terrorism. Because there are many people who are not aware about terrorism. What is happening? Some people will think, what do they need? Why are they attacking? There is a reason. They have a reason for doing that. To eliminate you and to dominate you and to ensure that you don't have a future. Yourself, your family, your tribe, your religion, not having a future. That is the aim of terrorists. And the earlier you become brave enough and to stand there and to fight it out, the better. So we're talking about awareness. Well, however, when I was told there's going to be an awareness presentation, I also talked about, I said, this is religion. So you need to know something about what to do. Say what to do. In the case of a vehicle-borne bomb, what are you going to do? What to do? In the case of a human-borne bomb, what to do? I may not go through everything, but I'll leave the material for use by the Legion. And it's a very, because of my international exposure, because almost every year before this I was going to the US, different states, Atlanta, Georgia, Anaheim, California, talk of Florida, talk of all those locations, Idaho. And, you know, with that exposure, I said, look, I also interacted with, have you heard of Navy SEALs? Navy SEAL. I did a course that was like that of Navy SEAL. Because as a marine amphibious rating expert, then you can also carry out scout swimming, underwater demolition. I'm an expert. The MI5. Who knows MI5 here? None of you knows. Okay. And I'm not going to talk about them because they are very secretive. But of course, I was able to get some information about how to engage terrorists from them. Hence, it's in the material that I presented here. So when it's made available to some of your leaders, be able to digest them very well. Talking about West African vulnerability to terrorism, chronic corruption undermines law enforcement. Listen here, chronic corruption. If the responsibility rests on you, the Legion, not to be corrupt. Because when I compare the Legion in Nigeria and the Legion in Britain, and the Legion in Egypt, I found that the Legion is down under in Nigeria. Because the Legion in the UK, the Corps of Commissionaires have, ventures that are bringing yielding dividends that make them not even depend upon the pension. Because by the time you are able to maximize this opportunity, then the widows left behind by those who died in battle, those who died for this country, they will be remembered. One of the organizations I remember, I belong to, they just sent in 300,000 to the widows, those men widows of that organization who lost their husbands. And of course, as a member of the 32nd Regular Combatant Corps of Defense Academy, recently we had our 40th anniversary. What did we do? We sent some help to the widows. Now, many have died as a result of terrorism. Now we're talking about West Africa. Institutions, failed states. Look at Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria. Under the auspices of the ECOMOG, Nigeria went in to help those countries. Now, the Muslim-Christian conflict, religious fundamentalism, these are some of the situations that has been dominating the West African atmosphere. Farmers, grazers, land conflicts, porous borders. Now in the modern times, when you talk about livestock husbandry, talking about raising cows and all that, you understand that those cows, Argentina and the US and these other countries that have the tens of millions of cows, those cows are not walking around the country. Nigeria is not among the first 10 countries with more cows. Rather, they are not even having more cows. So, the moment people are not educated in terms of how to keep their products fine, they will be able to. So, I think some efforts have been made now in order to get them, the pastoralists, to hold their those cows and maintain them in stationary places where they talked of Ruka. Okay, I remember in Kaduna State when I went to train special forces in the bush. You know, we who are professionals, the specialists, were in the bush, crossing rivers, climbing mountains. We see some of the natural things in the bush. And of course, I came across the Ruka. Say Ruka. I saw Ruka in Kaduna State. Yes, because what does the Ruka mean? It means where the pastoralists have secured and they have their cows and they're maintaining those cows, they're milking those cows and they're moving and they're feeding them. So they name those Rukas. And you know, to operate in the special force, you make it of map, you make it of GPS. And so with our map, work out a location where our troops go and carry out ambush or commando raid. Then show it on the map. We now say Ruga at the moon. You got what I'm saying now? So, yes, we should understand at this time that there is the need to understand what terrorism really means and the effect in West Africa. We've talked about West Africa, the conflict, the coup. Now there are coups and ethnic tensions. Now, I mentioned earlier that there was a coup in Guinea. The military took over in Guinea. Why? Because of religious conflicts, ethnic conflicts. Now, in Mali, there is a takeover in Mali. Why? Because of conflicts. There is also a takeover in Burkina Faso. I know one of the officers in Burkina Faso. And they were those people, the terrorists were killing people, killing the indigenous of that country. Some came from other places to kill them. And of course, some of the indigenous took up arms and fought them back. And of course, the military has to rise to the occasion and take over in Mali, in Burkina Faso, also in Mali. Then what about Nigeria, our neighbors here? The president of that country was killed by terrorists. And then his son took over. Proliferation of arms and light weapons. There is, with some cover, some people can get AK-49 today. Cover, they get AK-49. Because of the conflicts in the West African sub-region and North Africa also, you find out that these arms are coming in and we have porous borders. What are the immigration doing? What are the customs doing? Our borders are so porous that these people can just walk in with 100 Kalashnikovs and begin to terrorize communities with these weapons. Talking about the solution, as a special forces expert, I have the solution. And if my solution can be implemented, then Nigerians will go to sleep with their two eyes closed. So we also have what's called the state terrorism. Civilization is based on clearly defined and widely accepted yet often unarticulated hierarchy. Violence done by those higher on the hierarchy to those to the lower is nearly always invisible. That is unnoticed. When it is noticed, it is fully nationalized. Violence done by those lower on the hierarchy to those higher is unthinkable. And when it does occur, it is regarded with shock, horror, and fetish of the victims. So when we talk about state, then what about state sponsors? A state can sponsor terrorism by funding or harboring the terrorist organization. Now we heard about Pakistan, that country that they supported the Taliban. But even right now, they're having problems with the Taliban themselves. So West African vulnerabilities, what is the vulnerability? When you talk about vulnerability, talk about risk, the danger that we in West Africa were exposed to. That's the Sahel region. We have the Al-Qaeda in Sahel. A bomb exploded in Accra in 1964, predating the assassination of President Kwame Nkrumah. Kidnapping in the past, in the post-independence period occurred in Kaduna, Nigeria, when ZANU PM kidnapped 10 people in the British consulate. Then a later bomb on 19 October 1986, a later bomb killed a renowned journalist, Birima bombing, 19 September 1989. 30th May 1995, a bomb exploded in the Lawrence Stadium, Nigeria. Characteristics of terrorism in West Africa. What are the characteristics? Kidnapping, hijacking, hostage taking, bombing, suicide attack, murder. In 2000 to 2010, most deadly terrorist decade in West Africa. But it continued again. I'm going to do a little summary towards the end of this so that you understand the activities of terrorists in West Africa. Now, when you talk about the threat in West Africa, you know that there is serious threat. That's why I try to recommend that in Nigeria, we should have no less than 20 army divisions. They will have only 8. And they were stretched. Am I right? Our troops are overstretched. Some of them are doing, they are also manning checkpoints. Why? What the police. So, 50 major attacks between 2000 and 2009, 300 attacks between 2010 and 2010. You know, sometimes you have to analysis. That's what we call risk analysis. Say risk analysis. As a security professional, you should be able to carry out what we call risk analysis. Risk appraisal. You have to analyze. If you have to go and secure a building, think about the fence. Think about the electronic surveillance. Think about the video surveillance. Then think about the guards themselves, of course. 90% of attacks occurred in Nigeria. 65% of attacks have to do with religion. 65% of attacks have to do with religion. To me, I understand that religion should be able to bring peace, everyone, to make people live in peace. But however, the reverse is the case, because religion has contributed in a way to violent warfare and killings and hatred in the world today. Look at the World Trade Center. Look at the situation in Syria. That the Americans, I think Russians and the US used their superior forces to handle some of these things. Then politics came in, of course. Now, in the past, we have a major attacks by men. Have you heard of men? Men. So, major kidnapping by men. 2006, 2007, 2008, and 2009. The major attacks by Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb. And then, of course, what are the tools they use? They use motorcycles, motorcycles, household explosives, small and medium weapons, about 5,000 fighters. Some are well trained. Take note. Some people say, rat-tat people. Rat-tat. Some will come and join your army, finish training in the depot. Then after the training, they will just vanish into the bush. Then they absorb another toga. There are growing links between Akim and Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab in Somalia. One of the most vicious. These people carry out attacks even in Kenya. They rounded up a bus carrying students and slaughtered everyone in that bus. Like goats, the way they slaughter chicken. Then they use what they call madrasas. When we have madrasas, they call it religious schools. You know, we have been too politically correct. Most of you here, when you are talking about religion, talking about terrorism, you just say, no, this is how it is. When you say all those things, you forget about saying the truth. Then terrorism continues to approach your doorstep. And then before you know it, you realized it's not too late anyway. Then the use of mosques. Sometimes the mosques, they store in Kalashnikov inside there ready to commit genocide. Use of universities and other academic centers for recruitment involves in legitimate and corrupt business also. Now, ECOWAS raised some instruments. I'll just name about 2 of the instruments. The details are there. In 2001, ECOWAS protocol on the fight against corruption. 2008 ECOWAS conflict prevention framework. So these are, you know, when ECOWAS came with all these strategies, you know, they raised conventions. You know, you can see all those protocols. Then our own country, Nigeria, too, we have counter-terrorism rules also that have come out. So what is being done? How are we implementing it? You have the 81 protocol of mutual assistance and defense, and other protocols, of course. Now, major cities affected by Boko Haram, you have Maiduguri, Jos, Bauchi, Kano, Abuja, Damaturu, Gombe. Now, of course, you have, you are aware of Chibok. And I remember some years back with overall commandant of OFCOMMISSIONAIRES, that's General Sharjaba. We were together in Chibok in 2018, I think. A very serious emergency response assignment under Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative. And it was a very effective and very well performed assignment. Boko Haram, Jamaat Ali Suna Lidawati wal Jihad. That is, people committed to preaching of Muhammad and Jihad or Boko Haram. Western education is sinful. Founded in 2002, it has evolved from various sects in Nigeria. Their goal is to spread Sharia, eliminate corruption, free prisoners, seek justice. They were crushed in 2009, they re-emerged in 2010. Then they attack Christians. Then sometimes too they attack Muslims. But recently they've been kidnapping, and of course there is a connection between the bandits and Boko Haram. There is a connection between the headsmen and the Boko Haram, of course, when you see their method of operations, of killing people indiscriminately. What is the strategy and tactics, please? You know, Sun Tzu talks about knowing things. When you have this information, then it will be useful to you. Invisible, you can't see them. What are the tactics that they use? Because they don't wear uniform. But some of them are wearing uniform now. Both because they are supplied with sophisticated weapons. By the time you kill 100 of them, they have recruited 200. By the time you destroy their enough weapons, they come with brand new SUV. How is it coming? How are they getting all these things? They carry out surprise attack, they mingle with Fulanis, they recruit non-Muslims, use of suicide attack, explosives, commercial explosives, they mount attacks on motorbikes and cars, simultaneous attacks, centralized structure of leadership. They also use any weapon for attacks, knives, arson, bombs, guns, shootout with security agencies, then armed robbery, of course. And if you go, Niger State, they took over some WARRI area. Right now, they took over some communities and they are implementing their rules over in those communities, saying that we are the rulers here right now. Pay us tax and then you survive. Otherwise, so they are doing that. But I believe that in Nigeria, we have the capacity and the capability to nip this in the board and move ahead. Because we have some of the most well-trained people in Nigeria, and our troops are some of the best, in spite of the problems of insider threats. Insider threat, insecurity, what we call insider threat, is a very serious problem. When you are going to carry out operation and the next thing, information about to your enemy, and your men are in ambush, some of them killed, yet you are still moving ahead, still performing. You have not allowed Nigeria to be captured. Our soldiers need respect. They need to be commended. Of course, they should be equipped. They need the commendation, not condemnation. What are the targets of the terrorists? Security agencies, government officials, civilians, anyone who has offended them. Limited attacks on foreigners. Then target moderate Muslims and Christians. A strong dislike. They have a strong dislike for Western culture. What is the ECOWAS counter-terrorism structure, strategy and implementation? They provide common framework for prevention and combating terrorism. They have, yes, that's ECOWAS principle there. So, the ECOWAS counter-terrorism mechanism, ECOWAS authority, supreme policy making body, executive, they have executive council, they make policies against terrorism. Now, let's look at terrorism. We have talked about terrorism in West Africa. What about Nigeria? Now, in order, as a paratrooper, I have to make sure you warm up. Is that clear? When I say live to fight, you say fight to win. Live to fight. Live to fight. When I say how far, you say deep down. How far? When I say on your feet, you stand up. On your feet. Okay, sit down. When I say all the way, you say boom. All the way. When I say all the way, you say ahoo. All the way. So terrorism in Nigeria. Prior to the surfacing of Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria in 2009, terrorism existed in various forms, including assassination, armed robbery, ritual killing, religious riots, political conflicts, and ethnic conflicts. Boko Haram proving the scope of insurgency and terrorism in Nigeria, from carrying out attacks on soft targets to attacking people in worship house to kidnapping for ransom, violence, and criminality. It also took the form of attack on critical infrastructures, killing of members of the security agencies. The terrorists also engaged in hit-and-run operations such as ambush of military personnel to cause civilian. Initially, the insurgency and terrorism prevailed more in the northeast in Nigeria. It now spread to northwest and north central in the form of cattle headers and bandits attack against innocent people. Of recent, there was an attack of the Kaduna-bound train from Abuja, where hostages were taken. Also, the terrorists recently engaged soldiers of the Guards Brigade, responsible for the security of the seat of government. I, that am standing here, was a company commander in the Brigade of Guards under Abacha's regime. At that time, who won you? You see the Abuja mountains there? We knew that place. We trained them in the mountains. They were rugged, tough and rugged. What concern terrorists with federal capital territory? So I was actually on duty the day General Abacha died. I held the State House. I was the OC infantry in the villa. I have one court here, this one is just small. It makes me to remember the day. And of course something here if you see it. That I'm not going to tell you. Secure the entire place. What about funding? State sponsors have constituted major form of funding. For example, PLO, DPLF, and some other terrorist groups were funded by the Soviet Union. Revolutionary tax is another major form of funding, and essentially euphemism for protection. Revolutionary tactics are typically exported, and the businesses, they also play a secondary role. Now, what about the tactics? Tactics. Terrorism is a form of asymmetric warfare and is more common when direct conventional warfare will not be effective because of forces varying greatly in power. Secession of a territory to form a new sovereign state, or secession or become a part of a different state. Dominance of territory. For instance, now, there are groups in Imo State, and they will just attack communities and kill people. They say they want to secede, and they name themselves IPOB and the rest. So now I think they are getting violent. They are arming themselves, and I was in Imo recently for the Army Week. I did a presentation whereby the Minister of Defense was there and the service chief. So I was able, in fact, the governor, I met him and some of the officials there, and they told me about some of those things because of what we can leverage, the kind of technology we can leverage to improve security in the area. Of course, I found out that the danger in that place. So I'm going to round up right now. My research summary, from 2010 to 2022, terrorism activities increased exponentially in the West African sub-region, including Nigeria. Like in Nigeria, increased herdsmen attack on farmers, increased killing and kidnapping by terrorist bandits, influx of terrorists into the country from different other countries, attack on places of worship, kidnapping of the clergy. There has been recent attack in Borno, Ekiti, Benue, Taraba, Plateau, Katsina, Sokoto, Kaduna, Niger, and Ondo states. I talked about what happened in Burkina Faso. I also talked about Mali, Niger, and Guinea. Conclusion: terrorism in many forms have a source great concern. Is a source of great concern for the populace in Nigeria, to the extent that traveling by road has become risky, especially through Abuja to Kaduna. The effective implementation of measures against terrorism activities in Nigeria will go a long way to check the activities of terrorists and their needs. My recommendation: see Annex A and B for terrorism countermeasures and the key security guidelines. I left terrorism countermeasures and key security guidelines, which will be taught to the Legion members. Please don't give it out anywhere. It should be taught to the Legion members. When you learn it in your cell groups, you will understand how to engage person-borne bomb or vehicle-borne bomb. Now, you can see some scroll to those pictures. Yes, that's me there. You can see me there. Special Forces Operations in the jungle. See me there, and then see me there with the GPMG. Continue. Then that's me there just recently. One of the officers was reading operation orders, and I was correcting it on the ground here in San Model. Next, that's me there, marine amphibious operations. You see that thing, we use it to swim in the Calabar River, 75 feet deep, and we also go into the ocean. Next, that's airborne. I just dropped from the aeroplane, just about to land.
Is a remarkable day. Round